was able to go from entrepreneurship to corporate. It didn't take me long. Getting into corporate took me a minute. Overall, I was able to find my way from makeup artist to content strategist to corporate content marketing manager, which is what I exist as now for a software company. I started my journey off as a makeup artist in college. I was very adamant about being a makeup artist. I got my palettes and brushes before I left for college. I didn't immediately start doing makeup mainly because I needed to focus on my grades and I wanted to work on campus, and you can't really work on campus until then you have like a GPA. I wasn't necessarily taking clients, but I was like doing makeup on my friends before the club and like practicing in that way. It wasn't until maybe like my sophomore, junior year where I decided that I was going to pursue this a little bit more intentionally. I did have some clients in between that time, but for the most part, it wasn't until I decided to go work at this makeup kiosk where I decided that I was going to start taking clients. That was one of those moments that really changed my life because I was posting on Instagram to my business page and the makeup kiosk page ended up liking my picture at the time. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go up there and see if they're hiring. This was back when you could actually go up to some place and be hired. They ended up saying, if you come back on Thursday, we can do an interview. I said, okay, cool. I left. I came back. I said, actually, can we do it right now? She said, okay. Then I found a model in the mall. I feel like the rest was history. So I ended up getting that job. I worked there for about a month. I said, what the hell is this? I do not want to do lash extensions every single day. I had a few clients from that job. That job, I discovered glitter on the eyes, and that was like the thing for me. I had a client that she was just like, I want this glitter for my wedding. And I said, cool. But my point is that job was like a catalyst to what I thought was possible. I don't know if I can do makeup or get people to pay me for my services without some sort of validation. So a big part of me was like, I need to work at MAC. I need to work at Sephora. And lo and behold, I got this opportunity to work in the middle of the mall at this kiosk. So that was enough for me. And I said, you know what, from here on out, we're going to be taking clients. I took clients from, let's say 2018 up until like 2023. I graduated 2018 with a degree in health and fitness. I ended up working at Georgia. My contract was 6 months. As soon as that 6 months was up in December of 2018, I decided to go halvesies with my hairstylist friend on a salon suite. I wasn't making enough money to pay the rent at the salon suite whatsoever. By September, I had to get a job. I was complaining to another makeup artist friend of mine's friend. I just want something to look different. I want to make more money. I'm just not doing the things that I want to do right now. She was like, okay, cool. Come work at this barbecue spot that I work at. And I was like, all right. She was like, don't worry about interviewing. You just need to go apply at this link and I got you. And I said, okay, boom. So I worked there for a month as well. And the thing is, I've never been fired. However, I fire myself. I'm like, I don't like this. When I was working at that job, she knew that I was like, really focused on being a makeup artist, growing my career and getting that off of the ground. I was just kind of waiting for that moment. That moment came about 30 days into working at the job, literally back to back. Like I got Love and Hip Hop, which was like a reunion show for LA. Right after that, I got Bronner Brothers. And then I was reached out to by Stacey Abrams and her team. And I was just like, I can't balance both. And I remember when I got Love and Hip Hop, really committed to keeping the catering job and not taking the Love and Hip Hop thing because I was just like, I don't know if that is what I should be doing. It feels wrong. So I told my dad, I told them no, and he was like, are you okay? Maybe not. He was like, call him back and say yes. So I literally called the person that was, important to hiring me. Hey, I'm going to take it. I'm excited. Those back-to-back experiences were like, maybe you can't keep this job. And I was just like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be so worried, my manager, that I'm gonna quit. And she was like, girl, I already knew what the plan was. I'm not lost on that. And I said, oh, okay, cool. Well, I quit. That's what, end of 2019, top of 2020, the hairstylist that I work with, we both decided that we wanted to work under a more tenured stylist. So she went and worked with somebody that's been in the game for 10 years, and I did the same. And as soon as I did that, the world shut down, the pandemic hit, quarantine immediately. I was like, okay, I'm going to make some money for my bed. I was already helping makeup artists to create content to talk about their work better so that they can get clients from the internet. And so I decided to make that into a course. That is another pivotal moment in my experience because I was like, I want to make sure that I don't ever have to just rely on makeup. I want to make more money per my time. So that was like my first taste of strictly focusing on content. It was a content course for makeup artists. So I feel like that was like the beginning of my transition from makeup to content. The world opened back up, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do makeup again. I was in this new salon suite. My business was really blowing up. And in 2021, I decided that I wanted to release more courses specifically about content. That was like the year where I was like, I don't know if I love makeup anymore. And so all of 2021, I think I shut my business down for like 6 months because I was just kind of doing like courses and I was able to survive off of that. I tried to come back later 2021, I did, and then 2022 I said, I'm done. I realized that I needed to convince people that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to branding, when it comes to content. So I started taking brands, sharing my thoughts about the content that they were creating and relating them to the way that people should show up on the internet. How different is an Alicia Keys brand versus a Rihanna? And that really cemented my role in content or people's perspective about how I could help them with their content. I was like, content is really my thing. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. However, I felt like I started to grow out of love with that really fast too. I was getting clients. I was working with a lot of new and exciting people. I got to travel. Makeup never really was a thing that, put me on a plane. Content was. I was good at content. I don't know how passionate I was about it. Late 2023 is when I was like, okay, I think I want to find a job. I just was burned out. You guys know that I have ADHD and I'm currently medicated, but I was not medicated then. And you think about like the choices that I made throughout my life, and I just feel like I'm pulled in so many directions and I need to do all the things all at once, everywhere, all at once. Yeah, I just felt unstoppable, fearless, but I do think that's because my brain works differently than other people. 2023 is when I said, you know what, I'm gonna look for a job. I did not know that process was gonna take me until 2025. In those 2 years, I ended up with 2 first-round interviews. One of them was only a first-round interview. The second was the job that I have now in 2 years. This girl understands what the job market looks like right now. I get it. That didn't stop me. I kept changing my resume, updating my portfolio. I knew that somebody had to pick me. And it's so funny because literally earlier that year, I had 4 opportunities that were just so close. They were so close to closing and they all said no. And as confident as I am, I was starting to lose it all. My up here felt really TV static, cloudy. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who I am. I don't know if it's working. I don't know. I'm tired of applying to jobs. And so I said, actually, you just need to lock in for a second. So I told my boyfriend, I said, I just need 90 days. I think I landed my first round interview in maybe 30 days. Had that interview end of July, second interview, August. I started September 15th. Hallelujah. You know what's so funny? Because I have been through so many months of just the people don't want me, I don't know if I'm valuable. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to communicate who I was, especially because corporate just felt like a different landscape for me. And one of my friends, she's a corporate queen, and she was just like, you have to remember that this is you interviewing them as well. That when I did start my job, I was in a meeting with my senior manager, and he was just like, we hired you on purpose. You have skills that nobody else on the team has. And it was just like so comforting to hear that like all of what I've just explained to you guys in this video was so necessary for me. It felt like I was just doing a bunch of everything, and that although that may be true, it was worth it. Maybe to summarize how I was able to go from makeup to corporate, I made a lot of decisions in order for me to feel closer to whatever the goal was. I just knew that there was something else calling my name, but I didn't know what that end goal was. I didn't know that I would end up here 5 years ago, 2 years ago, to be honest. But I just kept doing the thing that was in front of me. When I told them no about Love and Hip Hop, that might have been the last thing I told somebody no for, because I felt like, what if I'm wrong? That was the last example I knew, because there's no right or wrong. Whatever you choose is right. I don't lose, I won't lose, I won't ever lose. And if you, I feel like, adopt the same mentality, you'll create a trajectory that like you couldn't even imagine, you couldn't conceptualize, and it will work. I didn't know that I was going to end in corporate, but it's working. I didn't know I was going to end up in content, but it worked. I knew that I was going to be a makeup artist, and that was really my catalyst moment. And I just took life by the horns and said, you know what, whatever is in front of me, you bet your bottom dollar I'm on it. This was fun. Hopefully you stayed today. But if you could like and subscribe, that'd be helpful. Okay, bye.